Hello, and welcome to Ms. Lowry's classroom. Let's go ahead and get started. For today's lesson, you will need a writing tablet or some piece of paper to write on and a pencil. Today we're going to be starting with word study, and our lesson objective comes from ELA 3.3b. Today I can use context within and beyond a sentence to determine the meaning of unfamiliar words and multiple meaning words. When we come across an unknown or unfamiliar word, we have to use context to help us determine the meaning of that word. Context is the words and sentences around a word. Context clues can also help us determine the meaning of a word. And these are words that help us understand that meaning. So sometimes context clues will give us a definition of the word. Other times we might get an example that helps us understand what that word means. But we also may have to make an inference or a smart guess about what the word's meaning is. So if I look at this first example, the sentence reads as follows. Margaret is a geologist, a scientist who studies rocks and other substances that make up our planet. In this sentence, the unknown or unfamiliar word was geologist. But as we can see, the sentence gives us the definition of what a geologist is. So we can determine that geologist is a scientist who studies rocks and other substances. Here I have an example of a context clues question. So whenever I come across a context clues question, the first thing I'm going to always do is read the sentence with the unknown or unfamiliar word or the multiple meaning word. On his journey to the well, he saw school children lined up beside the road. What does the word journey mean in this sentence? Once I read the sentence, I'm then going to find clues that's going to help me determine or figure out the meaning of my unknown, unfamiliar, or multiple meaning word. So in this sentence, I want to find some clues that will help me determine what the meaning of journey is. In this sentence, the clues that I'm going to pull out is the phrase beside the road. So I know that this person is on the way to a well and he is on a road of some type. Once I pull out my clues from the sentence that the unfamiliar word is in, I'm then going to create my own definition or meaning. So from those clues, I believe that the meaning of journey in this sentence is to be walking somewhere or to walk somewhere. Once I come up with my own definition and meaning, I'm going to look at my answer choices and get rid of two answer choices that does not match the clues that I chose from the sentence and my definition that I created myself. So the first one I want to get rid of is answer choice A, time. To me, time doesn't make sense because I'm talking about going somewhere and not about how long it took to get there. So I'm going to get rid of A, time. I want to get rid of these two, so I'm going to get rid of another one. So looking at my answer choices, another one that I believe it doesn't make any sense or match my clues is going to be answer choice B. We're not talking about a book. We're talking about him traveling to go to a well, going to a well somewhere on a road. Now that I eliminated two answer choices, I have two answer choices left, and I want to choose the best possible answer from those two answer choices. So I have answer choice C, trip, and I have D, map. From those two answer choices, the one that I believe best matches my clue of beside the road and my meaning that I created, my definition of walking somewhere is C, trip. So I'm going to determine that the meaning of this word, journey, in this sentence means to go on a trip. Now I want you to try one on your own. So on your piece of paper, you're going to answer this context clues question. Remember, the first step is going to always be to read the sentence or the paragraph that your unknown or unfamiliar word is in. Then you're going to look for clues in that sentence or paragraph that help you determine or figure out the meaning of the unknown or unfamiliar word. Once you look for clues, once you identify those clues, look for clues and identify those clues, you're going to create your own meaning and definition of the word. From that definition, eliminate two answer choices that does not match the definition or meaning that you created or match the clues that you pulled from the text. Once you have eliminated those two answer choices, I want you to then pick the best answer choice from the two remaining answer choices. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. Now that you have read the sentence, picked out some clues, created your own meaning, and eliminated at least two answer choices, let's check to see what the correct answer choice is. In this sentence, in this paragraph 7, the word drifting means D, wondering. So if you got D, give yourself a pat on the back. We are now getting ready to move into our read aloud and our reading mini lesson. Today, the objective that we're going to be working on is ELA 3.8b. Today, I can explain the relationship between major and minor characters. Today, we'll be reading a realistic fiction story. Realistic fiction tells a story about characters and events that are like those in real life. Authors of realistic fiction include a plot that has a conflict and a resolution. Realistic fiction stories include a setting, which is a place and time that is important to the story, and they have characters who think and act and speak like real people. Realistic fiction may include a theme or a lesson that is learned by the characters. Let's take a look at our anchor chart for our realistic fiction story. So again, realistic fiction describes stories that are not true. They're not true stories, but they could happen in real life. The purpose of these stories are to entertain us. The reason why these stories seem to be real because they have characters who think, speak, and behave like real people in the real world. It has a setting that is a real place or is like a real place. We have a plot that has a conflict and resolution, and the events are told in order. Oftentimes, these stories are going to have a theme or a character is going to learn a lesson. Sometimes we'll see sensory words and figurative language that describe the characters, the setting, and the events that are happening. And it can be told in first person or third person point of view. The story we will read today is Marisol McDonald Doesn't Match. As always, before I read to you, I want to identify some new vocabulary words that you might not be familiar with that you're going to hear in the story. Our first word is clash. Colors are patterns that clash, look strange, or ugly together. So let's look at an example of this word in a sentence. My mom thinks that things in grandma's house clash, but I like seeing all of the colorful patterns in objects. So as you can see in this picture, all of the colors and patterns are clashing together. They look strange and ugly together. Our next word is winking. You are winking when you quickly blink one eye at someone because you share a joke or a secret. Ethan was winking at his little sister as he snuck her a treat before dinner time. So in this sentence, Ethan was winking or quickly blinking one of his eyes because he was sharing a treat before dinner with his sister. Probably something that they shouldn't have been doing. Our next word is suggest. If you suggest something, you give ideas or plans for someone to think about. We were excited when our teacher let us suggest ideas for the class party. So in this picture, the teacher is letting the students suggest or give ideas for the class party for her to think about. Our next word, scrunches. If something scrunches up, it is squeezed or crushed into a different shape. Sometimes my sister scrunches up her messy writing assignments. So as we can see in the picture, the girl is scrunching up. She's changing the shape of the paper by scrunching it. She's squeezing or crushing it into a different shape. Mushy. Something that is mushy is soft and squishy. My mom poured the mushy peas into a bowl. So as we can see, those peas are soft and squishy. Usual. The usual way to do something is the way that it is done most often. It is usual for Juan to brush his teeth each morning before school. So this is something that he does often. And our last word, bilingual. People who are bilingual can speak two languages. The new student is bilingual, speaking English with us at school and speaking Korean with her family at home. So the student in this picture is bilingual because she can speak two languages, English and Korean. Now that we have looked at some unknown words, let's go ahead and get started with the story. Again, the story that we will be reading today is Marisol McDonald Doesn't Match. Marisol McDonald has flaming red hair and nut brown skin. Marisol McDonald is not your typical kind of girl. She thinks that mismatched things make perfect sense together. Unfortunately for her, they don't always make sense to everyone else. Marisol McDonald doesn't match, and that's just fine with her. As we read today, I want you to focus in on our main character of Marisol. And I want you to look at how the other characters in the story affect her feelings, her thoughts, her actions, and her motivation. I also want you to keep note of the events in the story that lead the character to change from the beginning to the middle and the end of the story. My name is Marisol McDonald and I don't match. At least that's what everyone tells me. I play soccer with my cousin Tato and he says, Marisol, your skin is brown like mine, but your hair is the color of carrots. You don't match. Actually, my hair is the color of fire, I say, and kick the ball over Tato's head and into the goal. Here we are introduced to the main character, Marisol. Looking at the illustration, I can definitely see why everyone says she doesn't match. I think she's a very unique girl and has her own style that's different from everyone else. Do you know anyone as unique as Marisol? We're also introduced to the character of Tato, Marisol's cousin. Here, Tato compares Marisol's hair to Carrot's. Why do you think Tato compared Marisol's hair to Carrot's? Would you rather your hair be compared to Carrot's or Fire? I want you to think about that. My brother says, Marisol, those pants don't match that shirt. They clash. But I love green polka dots and purple stripes. I think they go great together. Don't you? I also love peanut butter and jelly burritos and speaking Spanish, English, and sometimes both. Can I have a puppy? A furry sweet perrito? I asked my parents. Por favor? Quesas, Mommy says. Maybe, Dad says, smiling and winking. Looking at this portion of the text, how is Marisol feeling or thinking about her brother's opinion of her outfit? When you're answering this question, I want you to use the following sentence stem. Marisol feels blank when her family talks about her not matching. My teacher, Miss Apple, doesn't like the way I sign my name. Marisol McDonald, she says, this doesn't match. At school, we learn to print and use cursive, but not at the same time. But I like the way Marisol McDonald looks. At recess, Ollie and Emma want to play pirates, and Noah wants to play soccer. How about soccer playing pirates? I suggest. No way, they say. So I run off to play on the swings by myself. After recess, we have art, my favorite subject. I think my drawings surprise my friends. At lunch, Ollie walks over to me and scrunches his nose. A peanut butter and jelly burrito? He asks. I know, I say. It doesn't match, but it sure tastes good. Marisol, you couldn't match if you wanted to, Ollie says. Oh, yeah, I bet I can. Marisol friends are also starting to comment on the way Marisol thinks and the things that she likes. How do you think this makes Marisol feel? Use the following question stem to help you answer this question. I think Marisol feels blank when her friends comment on the things she likes. The next day, I wake up and decide that today I, Marisol McDonald, will match. It's a little hard to find clothes that are all the same color. I play pirates with Ollie at recess, but it's just not very fun. Why can't pirates play soccer anyway? I have a regular peanut butter and jelly sandwich at lunch, and the bread tastes mushy. Based on the illustration, what can we as the reader infer about how Marisol is feeling about matching? I can infer that Marisol feels blank at this point in the story. How is Marisol feeling based upon the illustration? Even art class is a little boring. Marisol, Miss Apple says, what's wrong? This doesn't look like your usual work. I'm trying to match. I say with a frown. Why? Asks Miss Apple. I can't think of a single good reason. At the end of the day, Miss Apple hands me a note. I open it and it says, Marisol, I want you to know that I like you just the way you are. Because the Marisol McDonald that I know is a creative, unique, bilingual, Peruvian, Scottish, American, soccer playing artist and simply marvelous. Miss Tomika Apple. I skip all the way home. We can see that Miss Apple has changed Marisol's attitude. How is Marisol feeling now? Marisol is feeling blank after Miss Apple wrote her a note. When I wake up on Saturday, I put on my pink shirt, my polka dot skirt, and my favorite hat, the one my abuelita brought me from Peru. At breakfast, I say, my name is Marisol McDonald, and I don't match because I don't want to. Bravo, says Mama. Good for you, says Dad. Now let's go to the pound and get a puppy. When we get to the pound, there are big dogs and little dogs. There are dogs with long noses and dogs with smushed faces. There are chocolate covered puppies and smoky gray puppies and puppies the color of caramel. How will I ever choose? Then I see him. He has one floppy ear and one pointy ear, one blue eye and one brown eye. He is beautiful. I want you to focus in on this portion of the text. At breakfast, I say my name is Marisol McDonald and I don't match because I don't want to. Based on the information in this paragraph, we can infer that Marisol feels what? Marisol feels blank because how is Marisol feeling at this point and why is she feeling like that? I walk over and he leaps into my lap. I cuddle him and it sounds like he purrs. I think we found just the right dog for you, Marisol, Mommy says. My dog is perfect. He's mismatched and simply marvelous. Just like me, I'll name him Kitty. I want you to focus in on this illustration. The illustration helps the reader understand how Marisol is feeling. Marisol is feeling blank because the end. Now let's discuss. First, we want to think about who is our major character in the story. Major character. Major character is just another way of saying who is the main character. Who is the story mostly about? Give you a few seconds to think about that. Marisol. Marisol is our major character in the story. So when we have a major character, we also have minor characters. Who are some of the minor characters that Marisol interacted with in this story? We had her cousin Tato, her family, Miss Apple, and her classmates. Can you think about the interactions between Marisol and the other characters? So I want you to think about the interactions, conversations, dealing with that Marisol had with these other characters. And from that, can you describe their relationship? Did they have a positive relationship? Did they have a negative relationship? Marisol interacted with all these different characters, and we're going to describe their relationship based upon those interactions. Who is your favorite character in this story? To explain the interaction between the major character and the minor characters in the story, I'm going to use the following graphic organizer. The first thing I want to do is identify who is my major character. In my story, my major character was Marisol McDonald. I then want to think about who are some of the minor characters that the major character interacted with. So I want to think about who did Marisol interact with in this story. In the story, we know she interacted with Tato, her family, who included her brother, her mom, her dad, Miss Apple, and her students, and the students in the class, which included Emma, Ollie, and Noah. I then want to think about one relationship. I want to focus in on one relationship with one of the minor characters. So I want to think about how did Marisol interact with some of these other characters in the story. So I'm going to be looking at how Marisol and her brother interacted with each other. So one relationship that Marisol had was with her brother. They were at home talking and they eat dinner together with their parents. That's the relationship that they have together. They're siblings, they live at home together, they have conversations, they sit at home and eat dinner together. But now I want to think about their interactions with each other to help me describe their relationship. So we can describe a relationship between a major character and a minor character as either positive or negative. They either have a positive relationship with each other or a negative relationship with each other. So since I'm thinking about Marisol and her brother, I'm going to say that they have a negative relationship because he's picking on Marisol. He's picking on her, he's laughing at her about her clothing and how she decides to match things together. The last thing I want to think about is any changes that the major character went through throughout the story. Did they change in any way? So I know at the beginning of the story, Marisol was very happy because she had her own unique style. She was mismatched and she enjoyed it. But then everyone started commenting and picking on her, so she decided that she was going to match. But when she decided to match, she became very unhappy. So at the beginning, she was happy with how she was, but then in towards the middle, she was unhappy because she tried to change who she was. So now you're going to try it on your own. In your notebook or on your separate sheet of paper, you're going to use the graphic organizer to explain the interaction between the major character and a minor character and any changes that the major character went through. So you're first going to identify who is our major character. Next, who did the major character interact with in the story? I want you to look at the relationship between the major character and the minor character of Mrs. Apple. So you're going to look at the relationship between Marisol and Mrs. Apple. You're then going to describe that relationship that Marisol had with Miss Apple. So you can say, I want you to use the following sentence stem when you describe their relationship. Do they have a positive relationship or do they have a negative relationship and why? Explain why they have that relationship. Is it positive or negative and explain why. And the last thing I want you to do is to think about any changes that Marisol went through in the story. So I want you to describe how Marisol felt at the middle of the story and why did she feel that way? And then how does she feel at the end and why she felt like that? So I want you to take 10 minutes to go ahead and fill out this graphic organizer, exploring the relationship between Marisol and Miss Apple, any changes that Marisol went through from the middle of the story to the end of the story, and the minor characters that she interacted with. When you finish your graphic organizer, I want you to do this as an extension activity. We're going to reread page 21, and then I want you to answer the following question. What do you learn about Marisol when she says her hair color is like fire rather than carrots? I'm going to reread page 21 for you. I play soccer with my cousin Tato, and he says, Marisol, your skin is brown like mine, but your hair is the color of carrots. You don't match. Actually, my hair is the color of fire, I say, and I kick the ball over Tato's head and into the goal. What do you learn about Marisol when she says her hair color is like fire rather than carrots? Thank you for joining my reading lesson today. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. Make smart decisions and stay safe.